Hey gang, I'm Luke and welcome to Down from the Attic. We're at the end of ball bearing week and I've saved one of my favourites till last. And one of the oldest games in my collection. This is a Bagatelle. Let's get this thing down and have a look at it.
Yeah, as I mentioned, this is an old game. I'm talking nearly 300 years old. Yeah, there's historical records of Louis XIV playing Bagatelle in France, in the Chateau de Bagatelle, and that's where this game got its name. The original game was built as a table, like actually into a table, and it has origins and links to billiards and snooker too. This thing has some history to it. The links to billiards is down to the fact that older copies used a stick to push the balls around the table, you know, like a pool cue, and certain copies of modern Bagatelle still have the stick.
However, my copy, which was restored by my granddad, my dad and myself, has a spring-loaded pusher at the bottom. And if you're thinking that's a little bit like pinball, well, you're absolutely spot on.
Pinball machines grew out of Bagatelle boards, and innovations with one affected the other. You can see this pinball machine here from the 30s, which has no flippers, is effectively a Bagatelle board.
Bagatelle is what's known as a bar game, and like most other bar games such as Shove Halfpenny, Bar Skittles and even Crokinole, this thing was used for gambling. People would use this to gamble on. They would bet if they could get the highest score. If they could get a score over 300, I can get a score over 300. Who says I can't get a score over 300? Even if they could get the ball in a certain segment, they would gamble on this thing. And certain bars would prohibit Bagatelle being played for the trouble it attracted. And the link between Bagatelle and gambling would have long lasting effects that would really hurt the world of pinball.
New York famously banned pinball from the 1940s all the way up to 1976 because the game was viewed as gambling. May LaGuardia was photographed smashing pinball machines with a sledgehammer. Many machines ended up in the Hudson, and pinball machines almost became a contraband item. It took Roger Sharp, a pro pinball player, in court in view of a judge and jury to prove that pinball was a game of skill, where Sharp was able to hit his named targets on board and prove that the game was skill, not luck. Both Bagatelle and pinball have had an unbelievable history when you think of it.
And just like other forms of gambling, Bagatelle is oddly addictive, though we've never played for money.
The game is so simple you've probably figured out how this works already. You have 5 ball bearings for your turn. Our board has a little store tray at the bottom here. You pop a ball into the runner, head of the spring, pull the handle, and the ball will rocket up and bounce around the board before hopefully landing into a segment and accrue points. If you're unlucky, you'll fall to the bottom and get nothing. Each of the segments represents a certain amount of points, and some of these are far easier to get than others. Part of the skill to this game, and there is some element of skill, is knowing just how much push to give the ball. A good wallop will send the ball bouncing around in a mad, unpredictable way, and yeah, you can get lucky where it lands, but veterans will aim to exert a little control. The highest scoring point on our board is right here, 500, and you're looking at this thinking, nah, that's impossible. And I'm here to tell you that it really isn't. You see, it isn't just about landing it into the baskets on the board, but getting a ball bearing to hit a particular pin and bounce in a particular direction. The random pins on the board have all actually been carefully laid in and considered, and bouncing off them is how you get to those high scores. And man, the sound of a Bagatelle, it's just magical to me. There's an almost musical quality to when the balls hit the pins. It's part of why I love this game as much as I do. Board layouts of Bagatelle don't really seem to have much in the way of a cohesive structure. My board has holes where the ball bearings can land into, whereas others don't. The positions of the segments can change from board to board, and some really expensive antique versions of the Bagatelle have decorations above the high points such as these bells, so when you hit them, they ring out. My copy being flat you have to stack a few books or table mats under it to give it a gradient, and again, this can affect the play of the ball. Bagatelle lives on in another guise, however, and one that's much more linked with gambling: Pachinko. Yes, the Japanese are absolutely crazy about Pachinko. They have parlours for playing Pachinko and have the balls activating all manner of crazy things on the board and on the screen. I can only imagine the racket all those ball bearings must make though.
Bagatelle is such a fun and fast playing game that you'll immediately want to have another go at it. See if you can beat your high score. See if you can land the ball in that one segment that you've not been able to do so yet. The replay factor on this thing is high, very, very high. And for that reason, we don't keep the Bagatelle in the attic. The Bagatelle lives downstairs in the living room because it's a piece of gaming history, and I think it's a really beautiful piece of art as well. But we love to play this thing. This thing gets brought out regularly because it's quick to set up, it's fun to play, and it's a challenge as well. And with a group of you, yeah, you could bring in some gambling if you wanted to, but only for fun. I absolutely recommend picking up a Bagatelle board, if only for the beautiful sound it makes. Well, thank you so much for sitting with me again as I show off more of my ball bearing games. As always, I'm Luke. Thanks again for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon. If you like what I'm doing here on Down From the Attic, please consider liking the video and subscribing. Comments are always welcome, and I'll see you in the next video.